رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله جميعا، طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. I was visiting the Muslim community here in Boston back in 2021, 2022. So I'm not a stranger here. This is the third or even the fourth time I'm visiting with your community. Jazakumullah khair for facilitating this event. The purpose of this very short talk tonight is just to increase the Muslim awareness about the importance of learning more about Islamic finance. It is a fact that the whole economic and finance system in the USA, like other places almost in the whole world, is a capitalist economic system. So Riba actually, or interest, is a built-in component. Every time, everywhere, every transaction, you will find a lot of obstacles. You cannot get involved because it does involve riba or it does involve haram some way, somehow. And for us practicing Muslims living here in this society, we need to be financially functional. There are a lot of like business opportunities and investment and saving and retirement account and investment in the stock market. And whenever you go, wherever you go, you will find a lot of challenges and obstacles that stops you from being financially functional. How to navigate through the system and how to find out what is halal to be conducted without having that sense of guilt, as opposed to what is haram to be definitely avoided. That's actually the challenge that we face in this society. I wholeheartedly believe that education is the most important component that plays a major role when it comes to conducting Islamic finance properly in this society. We need to learn more about Islamic finance. So whenever we are educated enough, we can definitely pick and choose those halal or Sharia compliant transactions to be done, as I said, without having the sense of guilt, as opposed to the explicitly haram business transactions and job opportunities and investment opportunities that have to be avoided. Take, for example, a very basic level of investment. When you open a saving account, right? And if you have any business to do in the stock market, then you have to have something called money market account. And as a like resident or American citizen, you look forward to purchase a house, and you are not asking too much. You want to be, stable. You want to secure, a house for yourself and for your family members. And when you work in corporate America, okay, you will be offered like several investment and retirement options, including 401k and pension plan and so forth. And whenever you have kids, okay, you start thinking seriously of having kind of saving for them for their future. So you will get stuck with the 529 and the AGMA account and all the challenges that we have in those accounts when it comes to Sharia compliance. Aside from the 401k, you might prefer to have a side business. You want to invest in the stock market, and you'll find a lot of what is so-called financial instruments between stocks and bonds and derivatives and futures and options and so on and so forth. What to choose, how to choose, and based on what. Okay, those are like some of the questions that we have in mind. Kids, whenever they finish their high school, they want to go to college. Some of them actually cannot afford paying the tuition fees, so they just raise the question of taking a student loan. And a student loan actually is not the same. We have subsidized and we have unsubsidized student loans. So questions actually are just raised up on and on whenever you want to do something. I mean, everything in this society is finance and money talks, as they say. So we have to be fully educated, equipped with authentic and relevant Islamic knowledge to face those challenges and to conduct our business transactions or any business opportunity or having any job without compromising our principles. And to be honest with you, this is one of the biggest challenges and the taxes actually that we pay in this society here, how to be financially functional without compromising your principles. Is it an easy job to live here functionally, financially? My answer, to be clear with you, all is no. Because if the whole system actually is not an Islamic one, it's really hard, to create or to come up with so-called Sharia compliant options for Muslims living in this society. Where to go from here? We have no choice but to challenge the system through education and through penetrating the system and trying to create as many Sharia compliant options for Muslims as possible. This is based on a well established qaida in the Quran, which is the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. Also the saying of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. Whatever I prohibit you, from conducting it, you have to stay away from it. وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. While when I command you to do something, do it as much as you can. So in the real life, actually, there is no like white and black, or it does not have to be white or black. I mean, sometimes you need to, find the gray area option that is more Sharia compliant than other options. Maybe one option is explicitly haram, the other one is close to be haram. A third option maybe like 50-50. Fourth option, closer to halal than haram, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is the reality that we are facing. That in the real life, it's not always white and black, like some Muslims might think mistakenly. Another thing here that we have to pay attention to is the importance of working on our financial stability and sustainability. For example, the easiest decision to make if you have some doubt that your 401k is not as Sharia compliant as you want, is to deny it, is to waive it, to say, well, I don't want to get involved. This is the easiest decision to make. But this is actually the most strong decision that you could ever, make when it comes to investment. So what you need to do, okay, is to strive to make your 401k as Sharia compliant as possible. And I want you to zoom out and look at the whole picture, as they say. When Sa'd radiallahu anhu, one of the great companions, came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, wanting to get his blessing and his approval to bequeath, like to donate after his death, to bequeath 2/3 of his wealth, because of the fact that he was about to, pass away, leaving only one daughter behind. So he wanted to give to non-inheritors, okay, 2/3 of his wealth. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam did not allow him to do so. He said, الثلثان قال لا. How about 1/2? He said, no. He said, okay, how about 1/3? الثلث. قال الثلث والثلث كثير. 1/3 and even 1/3 is too much. Okay, like to give 1/3 of your estate to non-inheritors. And then the Prophet ﷺ justified his fatwa by saying, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, إنك إن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. Leaving your family members, your legal heirs, your inheritors, wealthy or financially stable is way better than leaving them needy, begging people. So that is your responsibility as the bread maker, as they say in the society here, to be financially stable during your lifetime and to secure a source of income for your family members. La samahallah, if something happened and you passed, at least, I mean, they do have a house, they do have a source of income. You will not put them in a position where they, يسألون الناس إلحافا, they just go around and, seek financial support from the community. You don't want to put your family members in that position. And if you analyze more the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, اليد العليا خير من اليد السفلى. The upper hand is better than the lower hand. It's all about financial stability and sustainability. With this in mind, strive, do your best, okay, to be as as educated in Islamic finance as possible, and to be as committed as possible to pick and choose the most Sharia compliant options. One of the challenges that we face here in this society is the big difference between what we read in the classical fiqh books when it comes to the definition of riba Sometimes you grab like a classical book like عمدة السالك or عدة الناسك or المغني بن قدامة or المبسوط or whatever the مرجع might be, and you come across like definitions of riba, riba al-fadl, or riba al-nasa, or riba al-nasi'a, or riba al-nuqud, and the more you read, the more you get confused. Okay, exchanging barley for wheat, or apple for orange, or like sugar for rice, and you start like asking yourself a question: is this the riba that we are referring to, and we are facing in the society here, Muslims in the USA in 2026? The answer actually is absolutely no. Okay, answer is absolutely no. All these examples mentioned in the classical fiqh books are absolutely correct. Do not get me wrong. But they are very outdated examples, right? Like Muslims in this society do not exchange barley for wheat or sugar for rice. If you want to make an order, you just pick up the phone, your iPhone, and you make an order. Okay, within just 2 3 hours, I mean, you find the order dropped in front of your house, and you use your debit card or credit card or even sometimes cryptocurrency to pay for that order. So those examples are absolutely correct, but they are very outdated, and they do not actually apply, or they are not applicable to us Muslims living in this society here. Let me start with a very simple and a clear definition of interest, okay, that we need to have in mind from now on. Whenever I say interest, or I say riba, or I say usury, I do refer to this very particular category. Because as I said just a few seconds ago, one of the problems here is that you read something in the classical books, and in the real life, you come across like several transactions, brand new names that you are not aware of. You come across something called the profit and penalty and late fees, right? Commission, fine, right? Honorarium, interest, right? I mean, those are the real names that we come across whenever you want to get involved in any business opportunity or business transaction or contract or partnership or enterprise or whatever the case might be. So this is actually where the confusion is coming from. You read something in those classical books, ربا الفضل, ربا النساء, ربا النسيئة, ربا الديون, ربا النقود, and in the real life you come across something that's completely different. That's actually the source of the confusion. So I want you to forget about all these different like big names that confuses you in the classical books, right? And just focus on one category of riba, and that is the most severe, prohibited category of interest, and its prohibition is something that's agreed upon. So whether you follow the Hanafi madhab or the Maliki or the Shafi or the Hanbali, it does not make any difference. That kind of riba actually is interest-bearing loan. Simple as that. You borrow money from someone, okay, and you commit yourself to pay the principal as well as a premium on top of the principal. That is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Okay. So if you want to go with the technical definition, it is the premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, as a condition for the loan. One more time. It is the premium, like the extra money, the premium that has to be paid, okay, by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount as a condition for the loan. Very simple example: you go to Bank of America or Chase or any of those like traditional banks, and you apply for a loan, whether that loan is a personal or investment or construction or like whatever the category of the loan might be. If you are approved for $100,000, 5% APR. APR stands for annual percentage rate. It means that you take that money, you do whatever you want with that money for one complete year, and you have to pay back how much? 100, which is the principal, plus $5,000, which is in our example 5% APR. The issue here is that listen to the adhan, inshallah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب الإله والتام والصلاة. So I was saying that the most severe level of riba, in which its prohibition is something that's agreed upon, is what's called riba duyun, interest-bearing loan. It is the premium that has to be paid, okay, by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount as a condition for the loan. Once you apply for like a traditional loan, conventional loan, and you are approved for 5% APR, it means that you are by your own. You take that money, you do whatever you want with that money. And toward the end of the year, you come back with the principal, 100,000, our example, plus whatever APR that has been agreed upon. You want to use that money for 3 years, you pay 115 and so on and so forth. In this scenario, the bank actually is not taking any liability or any risk. In a very technical term, we call this kind of finance a risk shifting finance. Okay, which means that once you take that money and you involve it in business, if you make a profit, the profit actually is yours. And if you break even, you are definitely by your own. If you incur loss, if you know, like go bankrupt, the bank actually does not care about the outcome result of the loan. Okay, that is the risk shifting one. In the Islamic finance system, we believe in the risk sharing one. Like instead of taking a loan from the bank, no, you get that money as a partnership. Like you invest that money on behalf of the bank or the financier or the individual who gives you the money. And if there is a profit, you share the profit. If there is a loss, you share the loss based on like whatever Islamic mode of finance you both agree upon. So long story short, those classical traditional loans are against the Islamic principles when it comes to partnership. Now, the question here, do we have any Islamic alternative? That is a long topic to be discussed. Okay. It depends on which, like which category you are referring to. Are you, like are you asking about Islamic banks in the USA to finance business from scratch? To my knowledge, it's not that easy to find an like a Sharia compliant loan. If you are talking about mortgaging homes, which is one of the hot topics that I did actually discuss with this community here a few years ago, just to have some background. Okay, as I said, I mean, the definition of riba that we have to have always in mind is that it is a premium that has to be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount as a condition for the loan. So when you finance your house in a very classical way, the mortgage company actually is lending you the money. You are the owner of the house, you are the borrower or the obliger in a legal term, and the mortgage company actually is the lien holder and the lender in that transaction. Whatever happened to the property is absolutely your responsibility. In the Islamic finance system, in order for you to finance a house as a financier, then you have to own the property prior to selling it back. So you want to do it murabaha, for example, which is cost plus. You buy the property, you close in it, it becomes your like it becomes your property. You are fully liable for whatever damage or loss or depreciation might happen, and then you can sell that property with a markup. You want to do lease to own like الإيجار المتناقصة منتهي بالتمليك. You own the property and you start leasing it to your customer. You want to do it musharaka, declining partnership, likewise. You have to own the property. That ownership actually is the very fundamental difference between the Islamic as opposed to the classical or the conventional mortgage business in the USA. We do have some attempts here or there without mentioning names, but the problem here is that those companies or those banks or mortgage companies are a part of the system. Like they securitize those contracts and they sell them in the secondary market. So they have to abide by the rules, by the requirements of the secondary market, namely Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. We do have some new attempts, which is Alhamdulillah, yani bisharatu khair, that Muslims started feeling, the pressure of the system, and they started operating independently. We do have some attempts, like here or there, to establish companies, Islamic mortgage companies, who are definitely free from the secondary market. They have nothing to do with the secondary market. How successful they are, alhamdulillah, they are successful. And like the best news, in my opinion, is the level of commitment and the level of awareness that the Muslim community actually is showing, because they started with the Islamic education and the finance issue. They started realizing, okay, and acknowledging the difference between the traditional mortgage and the Islamic one. The problem actually is not as severe when it comes to investing in the stock market. Alhamdulillah, we do have a lot of like halal options. We have more than maybe 10 different Sharia compliant mutual fund companies, like Muslim owned and Muslim run, mutual fund companies. You can confidently invest in the stock market. Another topic actually that I want to just touch briefly on before I open the floor for question and answer is the zakah issue. We are in the month of zakah, the month of generosity, the month of giving, and most of us actually mark their calendar for the month of Ramadan to be Shahru Zakah, right? And we always have those questions, like if I have more than one house, okay, a house that I live in and a house I use as a rental property, how can I pay zakat or based on what? If I do have a long-term investment, okay, stocks actually in the market not for sale. If I do have 401k, how to calculate zakatul mal? If I'm involved in a student loan, like I have to pay monthly payment for the student loan. If I have to pay for the mortgage company. If I'm spending or sponsoring individuals maybe back home, can I count that sponsorship as a part of my zakah? Questions actually go on and on. And as I said in the very beginning, it's all about education. So we need to acknowledge that the very fundamental solution for this issue actually is Islamic education. We need to get involved in seeking authentic and relevant Islamic knowledge, learning more about those contemporary Islamic finance issues that Muslims actually are facing in this society. This is just a very brief introduction to the topic, as they say, like to open your appetite. And inshallah, I will stop here and just open the floor for question and answer. Make sure, please, that you limit yourself to only one question and just make it simple and clear. Speak out loud so everybody actually would hear the question. Inshallah, if I do have knowledge, I'll be more than happy to answer the question. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ماشي. يبدأ.
I'd like to ask about the AOCP, the company stock. That's the company that gives you for free or the match up to 6%, whatever. We have no control of it.
Can you
We have no control of it.
can
So
you
I'm asking about the EOSOP, the company stocks, that the company that gives you for free, and we have no control of it. It's a company stock.
you said the RS
OSOP.
restricted
Yes.
stock
Yeah.
units. So what is the question?
Is it if it's permissible to use that money?
Well, I would assume that the company that you work for is a Sharia compliant one, and based on that, the stocks that you receive, the RSU, the restricted share units, they call them. Is that correct? Or stock units, yeah, share units. Okay, so since they belong to the same company, they should be like Sharia compliant ones, or most probably Sharia compliant one. Now, the question that I have received recently is about the zakah. Are you supposed to count those RSU, okay, as a part of your monthly income or a part of your retirement account? Okay, and my answer was for the first year, you count them as a part of your salary because you receive 75% cash, for example, 25% RSU, right? So you receive them because of being like employed by that company. Okay, since this is a part of your if your monthly compensation, it makes a lot of sense to consider it as a part of your income. Okay, I'm not sure if I explained that before, but zakatul mal actually is to be calculated based on the remaining income, not based on the total income. So whatever actually is still available, accessible, vested from those stocks in the zakat due date, ولتكن for example in the month of Ramadan, you treat them like cash money, and you pay zakat on them. Now, if you change your mind, okay, and you rolled over, like you just liquidated those stocks and you put them somewhere else, or you bought something else, and that investment is completely different, okay, it's a long-term investment, then you starting next year, you start paying zakat on the dividend only, not on the market value of those stocks. Did I answer your question? طيب حياك الله. تفضل يا حاج.
Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم.
I always discuss with the brother in the community about the traditional borrowing from the bank to buy a house, whether it falls in the halal category or not. A lot of them they convince themselves, or they have that idea. Oh, Sheikh Qardawi, he said if you live in a non-Muslim country, you can go ahead and just buy a house and whatnot. I just want to see your elaboration on that situation, how haram it is. So a lot of people, just to be clear on that.
نعم
That's
جزاك
okay.
الله خير. Well, I'm a part of fiqh council that's called AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, and we have a very clear position when it comes to the status of riba outside the Muslim land. We believe that riba is prohibited every time, everywhere, and it does not make any difference whether you live in a Muslim society or a non-Muslim society. But Akhil Karim, to be honest, this is not like nowadays a very isolated or weird opinion. Like this is the official position of the Ahnaf. عرفت يعني الإمام أبو حنيفة رضي الله عنه الإمام الأعظم, and some of his followers are of the belief that, I mean, they have their own justification, their own adilla, they are scholars, I mean, no one can question their scholarship, but we believe that this opinion is not the correct one, and riba actually is still haram every time, everywhere. That's one thing. The other thing, when Sheikh Al-Qaradawi rahmatullah alayhi issued this fatwa 35, maybe 40 years ago, at that time, there were no prevailing Islamic alternative up to certain limit. Okay. And I'm not that excited to say Islamic alternative because the current practice honestly is not as Sharia compliant as it should be, because of a very simple fact that those companies are still a part of the finance system in the USA. But at least like they have tried their best to avoid the explicit riba. So my point here is that when Sheikh Qaradawi rahmatullah alayhi issued this fatwa, I think back in 1995, 6, wallahu alam, at that time, those so-called Islamic mortgage companies were not operating, like strongly in the market. So even if we believe that his fatwa actually is correct, it was issued for Muslims who do not have an Islamic alternative. If the Islamic alternative actually is available up to a certain limit, then the fatwa actually does not stand anymore. No. Yeah.
Sheikh Marine, Jazakumullah khair. For uncontrolled stock, is there a percentage? Let's say the company invests 20% in alcohol and 80% in allowable or permissible. Is there a percentage where those stocks are halal or not halal? What's the cutout?
No. We have two different schools here. We have MJ school that I belong to, okay, that says that you need to strive to pick and choose the most Sharia compliant ones. So those haram parameters, namely the debt asset ratio, and the interest bearing investment, and the interest income to the minimum, with no specification, okay, about the cutoff or what makes it halal or what makes it haram. Now, according to AOFI, which is like the most prevailing and the like well-known Islamic organization, for standardizing Islamic finance practice, they said that if the debt asset ratio is less than 30%, if the interest bearing investment is less than 30%, if the interest income is less than 5%, then that stock actually would be halal. Where did they get those threshold from? Right, from the real actual practice. Like they found out with the huge data that they have that it's really hard to have a very functional, profitable financial instrument in the stock market if if the debt asset ratio is like close to 5%. So they just extend it to up to 30% and so on and so forth. But again, according to our school, according to MJ, you just go with the minimum haram available. If you ended up, for example, having two different stocks, right, and both of them are profitable enough, one of them actually does have 30% between that asset ratio, between interest bearing investment, interest income, 30%, and the other one has only 15%. Well, believe it or not, going with the 30% one actually is haram. Why? Because the Islamic alternative or the less prohibited one actually is there. Now, if someone is looking for like pure halal stocks that do not have any percentage of haram involved, that's a waste of time. There is no stock nowadays in the stock market available, whether in the US or abroad, that's 100% halal. Because again, the whole like the global system actually is a non-Islamic one. So as I said several times, based on the qaida, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, be conscious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. You just strive to keep your business in the stock market as Sharia compliant as possible. Yeah.
The sister, is there any questions from the sister side? Yeah, let me just check with the sister first.
So you mentioned that there is a halal mutual fund. Do you have the list of it?
Yeah, we do have a lot of companies, but again, yeah, before you pick and choose a certain company, you need Akhil Karim to do your own due diligence and find out, like do more research and ask like specialized individuals about this particular company. I can like mention several companies who claim to be Sharia compliant, but it is your responsibility as a practicing Muslim to figure out which one of them is the most Sharia compliant one. We have Azad fund, we have Sharia portfolio, we have Iman fund, we have Amana fund, we have Zaki Financial, maybe like more than 10, 15 different mutual fund companies owned actually by Muslims and run by Muslims. The challenge here is that all of them, with no exception, all of them claim to be strictly Sharia compliant. And most of them, to my knowledge, do not have any like Sharia advisory board or someone in charge who is well versed in Islamic finance, does have an access to their database can do what is called in business, Sharia audit to make sure that their practice actually is good enough. In this society, akhi, it's easy to claim, it's hard to prove. You see, so once you are confident that a certain company is a Sharia compliant one, then you can invest with it. But if you ask me a question, I would say Zaki Financial is a Sharia compliant one because I'm on their board. Like I know very well, the in and out and what kind of investment and how the decision is made and what kind of like financial instrument they invest in. So Zaki Financial, ZAKI, Zaki Financial is a Sharia compliant one. As of the rest of them, again, you need to do your own research and ask if you find out that they do have someone in charge, like Sharia advisory board or individual consultant who knows Islamic finance and who's telling you that this company actually is a Sharia compliant one, then you did your best. You can just go for that company and invest with it, inshallah. No. نعم دخلوا اتصال لسه ما عليكم نعم.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
السلام عليكم.
So, what is the jaka for 401k? There is any threshold or like any
Yeah.
specific number percentage goes on?
The most reasonable opinion is that you go with the withdrawable amount or the accessible amount, right? Minus penalty, minus any prescribed tax, and you can deduct maybe another 15 or 20% fixed assets, because like stocks that you hold in your portfolio in the 401k do not represent commodities and merchandise 100%, right? If you want to be in the safe side, right, and to have a peace of mind, forget about all these details and find out how much you have in your 401k in the zakat due date. Let's say in the month of Ramadan. Okay, if you do have, give me a number, $500,000. Okay, if you pay zakat on 50% of what you have, that will be safe enough. If you pay zakah on 50% of what you have, where did you get it from? Again, go with the withdrawable amount or the accessible amount minus any prescribed penalty and tax. Tax actually is between 25 to 30%. Is that correct? Penalty for those who are less than 60 years old or 59 and a half, that's 10%. Fixed asset, it depends on the nature of the stock and which category it belongs to. Is it industry? Is it commercial? Is it financial? Is it consultation? Is it IT and so on and so forth? Right? Technology. But generally speaking, I would say 15 to 20% will be safe. So 25% tax, 10% okay penalty, another maybe 10, 15, 20% fixed assets. Again, like if you pay zakah 2.5% on 50% okay of whatever you have, and if you want to be in the safe side, just pay zakah on 60% of what you have, and that will be it, inshallah. Every single year, find out how much you have, and just take 60% of it or 50% times 2.5% zakat rate, and that will be it. By the way, some brothers and sisters prefer to pay zakatul mal in the month of December, which is fine. But if you decide to go that route, then your zakat rate will be 2.575%. Okay, to accommodate the 10 days difference between the Gregorian and the lunar calendar. Now. Yeah, تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
So I have a couple of questions here. So if we're looking to buy a home to live in, what would you advise us to do Islamically in this situation? And I've also heard of halal mortgages, and I want to know your opinion on how truly halal these mortgages are.
And as I
And-
said, Habibna, those companies ليسوا سواء, يعني they are not in the same level, right? Some of them actually have strived like seriously to come up with a Sharia compliant product, and their product is acceptable up to a certain limit. And some of them actually did not take it as serious as the first category. And some of them actually are still operating in a very classical, traditional slash riba way while claiming to be Sharia compliant. If you go to amjaonline.org, or just like Google Islamic mortgage, like AMJA, Islamic mortgage companies. You will read like very detailed declaration in Arabic and in English about those major, Islamic mortgage companies, namely Guidance Residential, Devon Bank, University Islamic Financial, Ijara Loan, La Riba, and you will find on the same page new companies. Okay, one of them with the name of Mubarak Mortgage, and the other one Nia, right? Also, another company, subhanAllah, I forget his name. So you will find like all these details on our website. And I'm not here to promote a certain company, but AMJA as a fiqh council actually, did its job, and they adopted a very clear position regarding the status of all of these companies. Oh, the last one is called Amin Housing in California. Amin Housing. No. No. You just Google AMJA, AMJA, capital letters, AMJA Islamic Mortgage Companies in the US, and you will find a lot of details there. Can you use the mic, please?
You mentioned Guidance Residential. Is it Sharia compliant?
You will find the answer on our website. And again, I'm not here to promote a certain company, but according to AMJA, Guidance Residential is more Sharia compliant than other companies.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay. I have a question. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a question about trading in gold these days. Is it halal or?
It depends on which company and level of assurance that they buy allocated deliverable gold. In most cases, like if you go with with an American non-Islamic companies, they do not commit themselves to purchase 100% gold. So they give you what is called a gold certificate. Gold certificate actually does not represent actual real gold. And as you know well, when it comes to trading in gold, there are a lot of restrictions here. It has to be actual real gold, and it has to be allocated. It has to be deliverable just to make sure that you own that gold. Right? If you want to trade in gold, okay, it's not a trading, it's a kind of passive investment. You can deal with a company called Fi Wallet, PHI, wallet.com. Download their app. I mean, their business actually is a Sharia compliant. I was their consultant a while ago, and I did actually inspect the whole system, and I did my own like Sharia audit. They do purchase 100% gold. So once you open an account with them and you order gold to be purchased, the gold will be purchased. If you want that gold to be delivered to your house, it will be delivered. It will be delivered to your house. Right? Gold has a intrinsic value. So to protect, the value of the purchase power of the money that you have, it's good actually to convert the cash money, the American dollars, into gold. So Fi Wallet actually will be a good solution. Yeah.
So you have mentioned that there is Islamic banks and secondary banks, and unfortunately we have to go through the secondary banks. I believe because we don't have enough capital. Is that enough of a reason, or is that justifiable to make these transactions, alhamdulillah, allowed?
The financial liquidity, like the availability of capital, is the major challenge, and the rules and regulations as well. Like if you want to operate as a mortgage company, you have to go through the system, the registration, the code of the mortgage business in the US has to be matched, and it's not an easy job. You're talking about millions of dollars and years actually working, within the system to get your company licensed, operating 100%, legal. So it is the availability of fund, number one, and the rules and regulations or the complexity of the mortgage. Mortgage, as you know, akhi, is a highly regulated industry in the USA. عرفت أخي؟ يعني you cannot just put together like a mortgage agreement and you start operating. No, I mean you have to be licensed. Okay, sometimes state by state. If you want to do like a Sharia compliant business, you need to go for each and every single state and get licensed to operate in that particular state. So as I said, we do have some new attempts by the Muslim community. Alhamdulillah, they start operating independently from the secondary market. Okay, like Nia, for example, like Amin Housing, right? And some other companies, alhamdulillah. There is a new initiative called Edifice X. Maybe you can Google it after the Salah. Edifice X dot artificial intelligence. This is a platform, tokenization, blockchain platform to facilitate for Muslims like doing Sharia compliant declining partnership mortgage. That is Edifice, EDIFICEX dot artificial intelligence. You can be an investor, you can be a buyer, you can be a seller, you can be a real estate agent, you can just join that platform and be a part of the success of this initiative. Yeah. No.
And last question, inshallah. Just talking about the 401k, I think, okay, so many people maybe they don't pay attention that there is zakat on that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, briefly, you go with the withdrawable amount. I mean, this is, I would say, the most reasonable opinion. And let me just make a disclaimer here that this is something new. It's a contemporary issue, and that's why some people of knowledge believe that the 401k is zakatable in full because that is the big, chunk of investment that you have. And others actually believe that the 401k is not zakatable whatsoever because you are not supposed to touch it before the age of retirement. Our fiqh council actually is holding the stick from the middle. Okay, we say go with the withdrawable amount, like how much you have an access to. If you want to apply for a hardship, if you want to borrow from your 401k, how much is the total that you can take home, right? And let's say, very quick example, you have $100,000, okay, worth of investment in your 401k, and the withdrawable amount is 50%. That's 50,000. That amount actually is not the take-home amount. You will be penalized. You will be charged, processing fees and tax and so forth. So you do the math and you deduct another maybe 10, 15, 20% usul thabita, because as I said, those stocks that you hold in the stock market do not represent commodities and merchandise 100%. Each and every single company does have certain percentage of their assets, okay, that is zakah free between the offices and the equipments and devices and the tools and the machineries and so forth. So you do the math, right? The net amount actually is zakatable based on 2.5%. If you want to have a peace of mind, okay, find out how much you have in your 401k and the zakat due date, and pay zakah on 60% of whatever you have. Simple as that. Forget about all these details. 60% of what you have in your 401k is zakatable one. Even if you go with 50%, that would be good enough, inshallah.
جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم دكتور معين قضاء. إن شاء الله
صلاتين. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.